fireworks. It's much more than fireworks.
Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor of welcoming first-time guest, Mr. Taki T from Gold Silver Worlds and Secular Investor, as well as other ventures that he has his hands in. And Taki, how are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. I'm great. Thanks a lot, Rory, and thanks for the invitation.
Well, it's been a long time coming. I've been asking you for a couple of years now for an interview, and we finally are able to make it happen. And I'm very, very grateful to be speaking with you, and I'm very grateful for you coming on the show. And I want to just jump right in with the Troika and Greece meeting tomorrow on June 30th. What will we learn that we don't already know? And will the can be kicked down the road once again? Or will Greece finally accept some deal either from the Troika or from the Russians' deal to join the BRICS? And will they leave the EU?
That's a very good question, Rory, and I think it's top of mind of everyone, not only in Europe, but also globally. The point is that I think the can kicking has reached a point of, I would say, no return. So it is clear at this point that something has to give. You probably saw in the news yesterday that the Greek finance minister, which is Mr. Varoufakis, that he just left the European top, which was organized for his country. And so it is clear that the interest between the different parties involved is just too great. So it seems like this is a point where something has to give. And on top of that, I think what you have seen the last couple of days is that the primary goal of the Greek government, which was elected a couple of months ago, which is then under the lead of Mr. Tsipras, which is Syriza, I think that what's becoming clear the last couple of days is that they have one goal, and that's the exit out of the euro, and probably, but not sure, exit out of the European Union. Now, somehow it is understandable that, a strong currency for a country like Greece is maybe too much of it. Maybe they just cannot sustain it. So I can understand why they want it. It's just that the way things are going at this point is very strange, because they are not very explicit about it, but you start seeing it in their activity. And so what the move was yesterday, very surprising, was that while Mr. Tsipras, the new prime minister of Greece, while he was saying during the election period, guys, it's done with the rescue plans, we are not going to continue with it. He was very resolute about it. What he is saying now, guys, okay, we have a third proposal now for a rescue plan. So it's not up to me, it's to the Greek population to decide, which is on the one hand, a very strange move. On the other hand, is a political move. He's just not responsible. I mean, let's face it. He was very clear about it 6 months ago, and now he just is not daring to take that decision. So it will all depend on the coming days, whether, the Greek population will vote for it. And here's the big point. So the referendum, the vote, will be based on a very bizarre formulation of the question. And, everything starts with the question. The way you ask the question is key. And so I'm not sure whether you have followed it, but the question that will be asked to the Greek population will be, do you accept, and you can only answer with yes or no, do you accept the rescue plan of the European institutions, including the IMF? And that is based on two documents, which combined are something like more than 100 pages. So it's very analytical, it's very fundamental in nature, it's very technical probably as well, which describes what the rescue plan is, why they will be getting something like 25 billion euros, and combined with that, what the expected impact will be on the Greek economy. And so try to imagine that you give those documents to people, ordinary people, and that you try to ask them, do you want this or not? And, the yes answer is clear. you will accept this. The no answer is unclear, and that's a big point. So people in Greece will not know what will happen if they vote no. So to come back to your question, is this the key point, the breaking point? I think we're very, very close to it. If it's not now, it will definitely be, a lot longer kicking the can down the road. And it will all depend on the type of information and education the Greek population will get between now and next Saturday.
Now, you are of Greek descent, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And so I would imagine that you have been following this very, very closely because it's going to have a direct impact on you and your family and your heritage. And what information is being given to the people of Greece regarding the Russian deal as far as the Greeks joining the BRICS and completely leaving the EU and the Euro? Is there anything that's out there in the mass media? Is there anything on the streets that people are discussing? How's that playing out?
It's very vague. And vague, I think, is the key word that characterizes what is happening at this point. Vague when it comes to the Russian deal, and the Russian deal in terms of what it implies, in terms of advantages and disadvantages, and maybe from an anecdotal point of view, what you should know is that a couple of weeks ago, when Prime Minister Putin and Prime Minister Tsipras, when they met, one of the remarks that Putin made was, guys, debt is debt, and you should pay your debt back. This is one of those quotes that stuck with me, but wasn't really talked about in the media. So to answer your question, part of the answer is that this is pure a propaganda game from the government, Greek government, and obviously the media, they are partly following what is happening, and they are playing it in a very sharp way, in the sense that if you also look at the referendum yesterday, it was set in 1 week, which means that decided yesterday, voted yesterday night in the Greek parliament, and to be executed next Sunday, which means that the opposition, that they don't have the time simply to start educating the people, which answers the question whether there is enough information out there about the Russian deal, about the European and IMF proposal. All that remains very vague. And again, it's a master game of people playing the propaganda game as good as they can. Now, to come back to your question, so how will it impact people? And obviously, it is also my family, because I'm living in Western Europe. I am visiting Greece every year, at least 1 or twice per year. And so I'm able to see how things have evolved over time. And if there is one thing I've seen and learned over time, is that people are unaware. And you cannot blame people. You cannot expect from ordinary citizens to know exactly what is happening economically, politically, what the propaganda is about exactly, when they are lying in your face and when they are not. That's almost impossible. So what I'm saying is that the government has a responsibility here. And in my opinion, the government over the years and even the decades was not able to come up with a decent explanation of what they're doing and what the impact is on future years and generations. And just to make that point, I remember in the 80s, I remember that Greece was a very poor country. I remember when I was visiting Greece in the 80s that, it reminded me the pictures we saw of the early 20th century of the currently developed nations. So what happened then in a couple of years, they got an in-stream of tourism, which has a very positive effect on their economy. They also started getting the mass European loans, really in masses, which means that the debt crisis really started there. The debt bubble was created in the late 80s. And then you saw an explosion of two things. One is the big states, which was fed by the government back then. And the other one is the living standards, which exploded from people. And so now you fast forward 25 years, and you say like, okay, people were having a very good time. They got cheap money, a lot of cheap money. There was a big states, and to illustrate that point, there was like 30 to 35% of the active population working for the government. So you can imagine what that means
Jeez.
and what the output is of such a country. And so you do that 2 decades, and then you say, okay, guys, please pay the debt back. You know, the type of confusion that is being created since 2007 by different governments who all have been irresponsible, and the one government is trying to make up the irresponsible, behavior from previous governments. You do that, you combine it with a lot of pressure on people, like financially, the last 5, 6 years, people have really been suffering. And then, you come back to them and you ask a question. What do you think that rationality will lead? I don't think so. People are very emotional at this point. They are very strongly tied mostly to the political parties they believe in, but they also have fear. So that's a combination of different emotions, and that's really a recipe for disaster. So to answer your question, yes, it's very tough. Yes, personally, my family is also suffering. And what does it mean for people? Do they clearly get it? Do they understand what is happening? I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they would. I just was curious to get it firsthand as far as what kind of information is going around, because I wouldn't think that people would be very educated as to what's going on with it. No offense to anyone intended. It's just that's just the way that it seems to be on a global scale. So I know that that's the way that it is here in the United States, and I wouldn't see it as being any different there. So,
Yeah,
uh,
indeed. And if I could add one thing on top of that, for me, the
sure,
crucial point is what you and me are saying at this point is the fact that the governments have a critical role to play in all this when it comes to debt and, the potentially destructive effects of debt. That's where the government should or educate people or at least make them clear, like, if we are doing this, it means that down the road you will be paying back that. And that has not happened. And for me, that's the crucial problem of what we are facing today, not only in Europe, not only in Greece, but globally, is that the debt burden is starting, and I'm really underlying the word starting, is starting to show how evil it can become. And really, when you start accumulating debt, look at Greece in the 80s, look at so many other examples, it all feels well because you're focused on the short term effects, which are that you're having benefits. The point is, what do you do 1, 2, or 3 decades later? And it was the responsibility of the governments to or educate or send a signal to the population that uh, you know we will be paying it back. They did not do it. They just preferred to have the votes and to bring good life to people, to raise the living standards, and to choose for big states. And so it's just like I would compare it with being a parent and having kids. If they come over to you every day and ask, like, whether it's 20, 50, or $150 or euros, doesn't matter, but just something they impossibly can pay back, then it's up to you as a parent to indicate what the effects are if they would accept it, and also explain what responsibility is. That has not happened. And so that's for me the big issue: big governments and short-term thinking of governments when it comes to debt.
yes, it's a lot better for the government and a lot easier to keep everyone in the dark in regards to the implications of what this is, what all this means. And I want to change gears because our time is very limited here. Um, I want to look at the gold and silver market, and the gold and silver miners are seemingly in a lot of trouble with a 4-year depression in the prices of the precious metals. And how do you see this playing out for the miners over the next few months, or over the next year? What is your research showing you there, Taki?
I would say it's great. And why is it great? Because of the pain. And the pain was very, very hard in the last couple of years, since 2011. And you've seen a lot of miners going bust, which is a very good fact. Why? Because there were excesses in that mining industry. And the excesses have been built up between 2004 and 2011, which means that a cleanup was really mandatory. That's what happened the last 4 years. So if you then look at it from another perspective, and it always is interesting to look at the ratios. So the ratio I'm focused on is the gold mining ratio compared to the gold price. And what you see there happening, and probably you will know the chart because most precious metals bloggers are writing about it, but you see that the ratio has really collapsed, and it is exactly at a point in 2000, 2001, when this great bull market in both gold price and gold miners started. So can we go lower from here? Yes, we can. Will we go? I think the downside is very limited. So given that the management teams of the different mining companies have really done the right things in the last years, they have cut their bonuses and their wages, mostly, not all of them, but mostly. They've focused on the real productive projects and mines, and they really, became scared, and that's good. That's very good. So I am honestly positive about the gold mining industry. It's just that timing is the hardest part. So if you would ask me, like, when do you think that gold miners will be bouncing up again and maybe resuming their secular trends, then I would say it's very hard to predict, but you should very, very closely monitor what is happening on the charts and also on the mining to gold price ratio.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. And with that, the precious metals, especially silver, Taki, they've been acting very strange the past couple of weeks. And what are the charts in conjunction with the largest open interest? What is your take on what is happening right now, and especially with silver?
Yeah, I think just like Greece is about potentially to write history, I think we're also at an historic point in precious metals. And, I'm monitoring every day a lot of data points in precious metals. I'm not going to go in detail for all those data points, but a couple of things are truly, truly extreme today. And I can give you a couple of examples which are very interesting, not technical in nature, just very simple to observe as well. So first, the gold price. You see that it is trading in some sort of range in the last couple of 9 months, I would say. You could argue that the range started 2 years ago after the collapse. So, a price is never endlessly moving in one direction, and for sure not in a trading range as narrow as gold is doing right now. So if you look at the trend, you see that gold is really, really ready to start trending again. The question is, will it be up or down? That's still a $1 trillion question, right? I think there are arguments to believe that it's going to go up. One of the things is that from a short-term point of view, seasonality is starting to play. And historically, in the last 20 years, you have seen that the last dip of the first 6 months in gold has always been in the last days of June, first days of July. So we are right here. If history and seasonality will repeat again this year, then we can only go higher for the rest of the 6 months that will follow this year. We can only go higher as of next week, which is probably the good news. On the other hand, to come back to COMEX, there are a couple of very, very bizarre things happening over there, especially in silver. So if you look at two things, one is the way that commercial traders have changed their long and short positions in the last 2 months have been really been historic, in the sense that in May, the commercial short positions have moved from 1 week to another one, mid-May, with a volume that hasn't happened before. So that was really scary, and I started to become also very prudent. I also share that with my readers. But meantime, what we saw 2 weeks ago was an incredible decrease or reduction in their short positions, also at an extent to an extent that was really historic. So you see a lot of things happening in silver, combined with the fact that you just said the open positions, open interests in silver are the highest they have ever been, even higher than in 2008, which means to me that there was a lot of tension in that market. And so either way it will go, it will explode. So higher or lower, short term at least, there will be a sharp, sharp movement, in my opinion. And if you combine that with something else which was very positive in the figures we found yesterday, the short positions in GLD and SLV, the two biggest, paper, gold, and silver trading vehicles, they collapsed to a very interesting low, which is 3% in GLD and 5% in SLV. I wouldn't say that's historic, but I'm saying this is very, very low given historic standards. If you combine it with all the other data points I just mentioned, I would believe that we are going higher from here, and this could mark the bottom of the correction which started in 2011. But again, we need some confirmation the coming days and weeks.
What type of confirmation do we need? I mean, it seems like everything is pointing at a bottom, like you were saying just a moment ago. Gold has been trading in this very tight range from about 1180 to 1220, and silver, it seems like every time that it gets knocked down below $16, that it quickly gets back to that number and either right at it or just above 16. And it seems like that the traders, there's something happening with that particular mark, and I'm not sure what, but I mean, how do we get it moving in the positive? I mean, wouldn't the largest open interest in the history, wouldn't that be an indication that something is going to break to the upside?
I would assume yes, but the large traders are so large and so powerful that you never know what their tricks will be. Will they be able to push, even in some sort of a capitulation phase, to push silver towards 12 or even 11 for that matter? I think they can do a lot. They are very powerful. But the point is, how sustainable will that be? I don't think it will be. And that's the type of confirmation I would like to see on the gold and silver price charts in the coming weeks, and I would say a couple of 2-3 months. If they are not able to do it, then I think that will be the confirmation we're looking for.
Well, what about India? I mean, as far as they're taking as much silver as they can get their hands on, and equally China is doing the same, and China in particular is taking every single drop of gold that they can lay their hands on. So, I mean, I would think that it would be to the detriment of these large traders that you were referencing to take the prices much lower, because if they do, then India and China are they're gonna go nuts.
I totally agree with that. And it is no coincidence that we got this week the news that China will start to be involved later this year in setting the gold price.
Right.
So all those things are no coincidence, and that they are happening right at this point, right at this price level, right at this COMEX market structure. I think all that is no coincidence.
Do you think that they're going that China is going to become, that the Shanghai Gold Exchange is going to become the pricing mechanism globally?
That's one of the possibilities. The other possibility is that we would have, going forward, two different prices. That has happened in the 60s as well. That you would have, for instance, a US dollar-based gold price and a yuan-based gold price. I mean, it's very hard to predict what exactly will happen.
Yes.
But one thing is for sure, there is a lot of interest in gold coming out of China and India. So that will probably support Just like, the gold price, the production for a ounce of gold is more or less the price we have at this point. So all those factors will probably support the gold price.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, I would really like to see something change that is a little more positive and puts a little bit more of the power, for lack of a better word, into the hands of the people that are actually trading physical metal as opposed to just pushing paper around. I mean, I am so sick of these paper markets for gold and silver. I can't even tell you. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you have that we right now as we speak, Taki. There is more paper contracts on silver and open interest than there is mined silver for an entire year on a global scale. That is not sustainable. That's beyond. I just don't even know. I mean, it's ridiculous, is what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
we've got to
it is
have something.
ridiculous. I totally agree with you. It is ridiculous, and it is the ultimate proof that the gold price and silver price are manipulated. And it is the ultimate proof that at this point in COMEX, gold and silver, that is the point where the price is being set and fixed. And, the Chinese, they're not stupid. They are seeing this as well. And probably that's one of the reasons that they want to have their own fixing scheme. And probably they will not be scared of having their own gold price in their own currency as well. So all these options are possible in the future. But again, back to your point, the manipulation is taking place in COMEX, and the volumes you're mentioning, they're correct. That is ridiculous. Simple as that.
Yes. Well, I would say that if you don't have physical, ladies and gentlemen, you need to get some because something is about to change. We don't know if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down, but it seems that all indications are pointing to the upside, in my opinion. And it just seems like something very dramatic is about to happen, not only with Greece and Europe and the euro, but with the gold and silver markets. And I think that they may be working in tandem with each other. Not exactly sure about that, but that's what it seems like to me. So, Taki, is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with at this point?
Well, two things. I would like to just share my personal vision on, how we should survive the coming years, because as we said before, and I think that's the main topic of your blog, and your readers are also interested in that, is the fact that we're living in this government debt bubble, which is a huge bubble from historic proportions. And the question is for us, for all of us, being not the 99%, sorry, not the 1%, being part of the 99% of the population, how do we deal with that, right?
Yes.
And so I think precious metals is part of the answer. And that's why, for instance, my activity is also focused on educating what you can do with precious metals, why it is important. And I'm doing that through my personal blog, which is goldsilverworlds.com. And so every day I've tried to, educate people in different facets of precious metals, which is on the one hand, the investing aspect. On the other hand, it's the monetary aspect. And basically the whole idea is that physical precious metals, like you just said, they are the ultimate protection. It's some sort of insurance, I would say, against monetary calamity. And we know somewhere down the road it will happen. We just don't know when. It just seems like it is taking much more time than we think. The ultimate collapse will come, I think. Based on the path we have seen the last years, it will probably take more time than we all thought. And so from that point of view, I'm strongly supporting the vision of one of your other guests, which is Claudio Gras from Global Gold. And so I'm working with him to educate people on the monetary side of things. And he has a great newsletter, free newsletter, which is at globalgold.ch. That's one part of the protection in the central bank era. The other part is, how can you survive trying to profit from secular trends at this point, because what is happening basically is that wealth is being transferred from you, me, our readers, and our listeners to this 1% and the banking system and the monetary system. And so the question is, how do you deal with it? Because I can look at the savings rates at my savings account, and it's ridiculous, it's almost zero. I can look at how my future pension plan and security plans are being, devastated almost, and that's not fun. It is not.
No.
And so, actually, what is happening at this point is that central bankers are forcing us to, to anticipate what is happening and try to find a solution on the fact that they are, really stealing wealth and purchasing power from us. From that point of view, we just started recently secularinvestor.com, which is focused on secular trends and is some sort of answer to the fact that central banks are stealing from us, simply said. And, the whole point is you should try to protect yourself not only by holding physical precious metals, but also by riding the secular waves. And that's really what it is about at secularinvestor.com. There is a free newsletter as well. And so I would invite people to subscribe to it. It's really fun. We're with a team of 8 analysts. We're putting a lot of time and efforts in trying to understand what is happening exactly and how people can profit from secular trends going on and coming in the future.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, what we need are solutions, and that sounds like exactly what you're focused on over there. In particular, it's Secular Investor. And I know that after following your work for the past 2 or 3 years, and have to give a big shout out to Sean over at SGT Report, because that's where I was first introduced to you and your work, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very grateful for what you do, Taki, and you and Claudio Grass over at Global Gold. I mean, you guys are doing just a bang-up job of keeping people educated, and it seems like that you all do your level best to stay in the solution as opposed to the problem. And that's what we need. We need more focus on the solutions and how to better protect ourselves, our families, our neighborhood, our communities, and to get back to what is real, and to get back, like what you were saying, get back the taking away the theft mechanisms from these criminal banking cabals and these criminal, corrupt to the core governments that we have to deal with every single day. So I really appreciate you bringing that to the fore and keeping it right where it belongs, in the forefront of our minds. How do we better protect ourselves? So we've been speaking with Taki T from goldsilverworlds.com as well as secularinvestor.com. And Taki, I certainly appreciate all your time today.
Many thanks to you, your readers, and also to SGT Report.
Yes, and I hope that we can do this again sometime in the not too distant future. I would love to speak with you again anytime that you're ready. Hopefully, it won't be 2 more years.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready when you are.
All right. Well, thank you, Taki, and I will talk with you soon.
Big thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.